Thank you.
Quick jab, left foot, right hook.
Welcome back, everybody, to Party Pastime, the after party show. We're going to talk about Shang-Chi, Legend of the Ten Rings. I want to start off with this review. I want to start talking about the comedy in this movie first.
Sure.
The reason being is because I know a lot of critics, they really don't like how Marvel can be so, quote unquote, cotton candy.
Sure.
Especially when it comes to the comedy. I really thought the comedy in this one really worked in its favor.
Yeah, this one was legitimately funny, and there wasn't so much of the using comedy to take literally all of the tension out of a scene as much in this one, which I appreciate, because definitely one of my biggest, that's one of my biggest criticisms of other Marvel movies, certainly, is they need to just chill with the quips when something really intense is going on.
I remember when Age of Ultron came out, that was one thing that you and I talked about and agreed on, was the comedy towards the end when they were fighting Ultron really kind of took it out of a lot of moments.
It's just too much. I understand you're trying to keep, bring some levity to it, because these are quote unquote family films, but if you are facing the potential life loss of millions, there really shouldn't be so many let's make the audience laugh right now moments. So I thought this was a good way to do comedy in a Marvel movie. Can I also just say this is a really good movie?
Oh, really good.
This is definitely one of the better Marvel movies. I don't even that's not even to disparage other Marvel movies. This is just really good. This is great.
Before we move on, let's talk about two things. Let's talk about the plot, and let's also talk about who the Ten Rings are, since they did take a big part in the Iron Man movies.
Sure.
So Shang-Chi, Legend of the Ten Rings talks about a guy named Shang, whose father has these rings on his arms that gives him some kind of power. This is a spoiler talk. Also, just to let you guys know, at the end, it is explained that it is unknown where this power comes from as well.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming later on in sequels and all of that, we will get a better explanation.
We'll cross that bridge when we get there. Typical Marvel.
But little does Shang know that his dad is actually evil.
Yeah. As the typical Marvel.
And what he's trying to do, what his dad's trying to do, is actually bring his mom back to life. His wife, not his mom. Shang's mom, his dad's wife, though.
Yeah.
Because they did die in the hands of an evil organization. I don't remember. Was it the Ten Ring organizations that killed her?
I think so.
Yeah, I can't remember either.
It's been too long.
It's been a few weeks. weeks.
Details get fuzzy.
But little does his dad know that if he even tries to bring her back to life, they're going to awake a much bigger entity that is going to destroy them, probably the world, probably this little village.
Yeah.
So really, it's up to him, his friend, and a few other relatives that he ends up meeting along the way, including Ben Kingsley.
Yeah.
Oh man, I know, Pat, you had a problem with him in this time around. I thought he was much better in this movie.
Yeah, I thought he was better now that he has a reason to exist. Sorry, I'm gonna go on a tangent. Iron Man 3's plot twist with Ben Kingsley being a British dude named Trevor and not really that's so stupid. I hated it.
So I know I've only seen 2 of the MCU short films. I know in one of their short films called All Hail the King, he does say that there is a real life Mandarin out there.
There is an actual Mandarin.
But I really thought we were going to see him this time around, but we really didn't. Hopefully later on in a Shang-Chi sequel we will. I really wanted, as much as I don't hate Iron Man 3 as much as you do, I really would have liked at least one fight between Tony and the Mandarin, considering that the Ten Rings did kidnap him, and he became pretty much who he was later on in the movies because of the Ten Rings.
Right. Yeah. I would have Yeah, I would have liked one of Iron Man's biggest like villains to not be a joke, and as a substitute for a significantly lamer in-house villain that they created.
But speaking of which, let's talk about the Ten Rings as well.
Sure.
The Ten Rings. If me, I'm more familiar with the movies.
Yeah.
But as far as my knowledge goes, the Ten Rings is a terrorist organization in the MCU, in the comics as well. They take a big part in the comics, especially with the Iron Man storylines.
Yeah.
Like you said, Mandarin is like one of Iron Man's greatest villains.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. He's like a,
now in the
like
comics. Now in the earlier movies, their goal was to get tech from Stark.
Yeah.
So that way they can build their own weapons that they can use to take over the world or whatever. What's their goal in the comics?
Pretty similar.
Pretty similar?
It's, like, it's just generic terrorist organization stuff,
Okay.
Get tech, rule the world,
Okay.
type stuff. It's nothing super complicated.
Yeah. So like someone like me, like I wasn't familiar with the comics, like I said. Sure. So when it literally became like 10 rings, I'm like, oh wait, what?
Yeah.
I thought there was an organization. I didn't know there was actually literal rings involved.
Yeah. I'm not terribly familiar with like that literal 10 rings.
Okay.
In terms of the comics.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, you are correct. The Ten Rings is a terrorist organization in the comics.
Okay.
I'm not too like deep into their origins. I was never like the big like Iron Man comic reader.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's that.
Right. Okay.
We got that straight. Yeah. It was really good. There's a lot of
so let's talk about that. Let's talk about like what we loved about this movie, Pat.
Well, there's a lot of great fight scenes. Some of the best choreography ever put into an MCU movie.
Mm-hmm.
If not the best choreography ever put into an MCU movie. Awkwafina is great. Like, Awkwafina's character is, really, like, funny and just, like, a good addition to the cast.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of great comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty, like, as far as Marvel movies go, pretty good plot, Not especially it is a bit formulaic, but, like, not especially so. It doesn't, like, watching this movie didn't make me think, oh, well, that's in another Marvel movie. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just fun. It was really easy to lose myself in it. You know? Like, it wasn't hard to get invested in these characters and the story, with the emotional stakes even being pretty high. Because, you kind of have that dichotomy of like, well, I'm sure like, he wants to see his mom again. But
right.
Like, what, not at the cost of all this other stuff.
Right.
Yeah, it's cool.
I have to agree with you on the choreography. The camera work when it comes to the fight scenes is very fluid, very easy to follow.
Yeah, I think we're finally getting past the Bourne series
shaky cam like, handheld kind of style,
like hypercut.
Something that took a big part in Civil War. I think is a great example of that. They had a lot of that.
Yeah,
in Civil War.
Don't get me wrong, I love the Bourne movies, but especially the first 3. But it's definitely like there is a noticeable shift in the way that action movies shoot their fight scenes. Like after the Bourne trilogy came out. Yeah,
because the trilogy was so good. It's like, yeah, we want to do something like that. Can we do something like that, please?
It was so defining. So then everybody started using shaky cam and jump cuts for all their fight scenes to give them more.
And some did good, but a lot. I think it's safe to say that a lot of others though did it really weak.
Some do it well. Others, it just makes their fight scenes incomprehensible messes. It's like you can only cut so many times before you're not watching a fight scene. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I'm happy that this movie, a legitimate martial arts movie in the realm of Marvel, as much as you can be anyway, bucked that trend.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah. I think the one thing I really liked about Shang-Chi the most One thing that I said after I saw Black Widow was I don't think we're gonna get a solo film that solely relies on its own movie. Something like Black Widow, you had to watch Civil War to understand where she is now in this movie.
Yeah.
Something like what's another solo film that had to rely on. I'm really thinking of another one, but
I mean, we really haven't gotten any solo films.
Yeah, so it really is hard, but Black Widow is a good example.
I mean, we got Black Widow, we got Ant-Man, Black Panther.
Well, see, someone like Black Panther too. It begins with him being king, even though in Civil War it was T'Chaka. So even though they did give exposition at the beginning, like since the death of T'Chaka,
I don't really think you need to have seen Civil War to understand.
Well, yeah, because it doesn't really rely on Civil War. It does rely on its own story.
Yeah,
something like Black Widow, though. You really had to see Civil War to see like why she's in hiding and why she has to run away from all of these organizations coming after her and all that.
Yeah, and also it makes a lot more sense to watch Black Widow before you watch Endgame now, which is really weird. If you're one of the 3 people who haven't done that yet.
Exactly. But that's what I loved about Shang-Chi. This one, even though the 10 Rings were introduced in the Iron Man movies, and we get Ben Kingsley's character from Iron Man 3, this still relied on itself heavily.
Yeah, it relies on itself, and honestly, the 10 Rings, as far as the Iron Man movies go, they don't really do much,
Yeah.
I mean,
the last time we saw them was in Iron Man 3, but
like they really don't.
Then they went away. We haven't really heard about them since. In fact, that the big organization that the Avengers worry about the most is Hydra.
Yeah, they really don't like the 10 Rings don't matter all that much in the grand scheme of things because it's not like the 10 Rings are in Iron Man 3, and I think that's it. Because I don't think they weren't the ones who kidnapped Tony Stark in the first one.
No, it was them.
It was them?
It was them,
okay,
yeah.
Well, still, I mean, even then, like, knowing that, like, if you didn't know that was the 10 Rings, your understanding of the plot is 100% the same. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, like, vital information.
Right.
So, yeah, this is pretty self-contained.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, you get Ben Kingsley back, but, I mean, if you don't have the context for that, the better. So.
In fact, they really just kind of brush it off. It's like, well, who are you? Well, you see, I played a terrorist, the leader of this terrorist organization back in the day, but now I'm just kind of here with my new pet.
Right, yeah. Yeah, they really kind of just like cheeky little nod for people who...
You can tell they really wanted nothing to do with Iron Man 3, even though it is canon.
Yeah, I mean, Iron Man 3 is canon, but a lot of people don't love it. Exactly.
Well, what would you say there were some weak points in this movie? There's really not a lot I could think of.
I don't really think there's anything I didn't like. It's just
I feel like I think it's more of a nitpick. I feel like when we first are introduced to Sean and Awkwafina's character at the beginning as being valet parkers, she takes the car for a joyride.
Right.
But that's really the only thing I can think of. I don't think there's really any weak moments, any slow moments. I loved that there was this whole underground fight club that involved like other mystical creatures from the MCU, especially being Abomination and Wong.
Yeah, that was cool.
I thought that was really cool, and I'm really excited to see Abomination come back with the She-Hulk show. They are bringing back I don't remember the actor's name, but I know they're bringing back the same guy that played him in the Incredible Hulk movie.
Tim Roth.
Thank you, Pat.
He's also the male counterpart to Honey Bunny in Pulp Fiction, and he's in a lot of Tarantino movies.
So I'm really excited to see him because we haven't seen him since 2008. And it was really cool to see him back, and it's really cool to see him coming back for She-Hulk. In fact, one thing he said was, I was nervous coming back to play in She-Hulk, but when I saw Mark Ruffalo's performance, I was like, so that's how it is. You got to be funny.
Yeah, pretty much.
So it's really cool that even though Incredible Hulk is a weak film, and he did play a weak character in that, it's great to see him come back and say, like, yeah, I finally get it now. I finally know what I have to do. All I did was just follow what Mark Ruffalo did.
Yeah. Definitely excited. Tim Roth's a great actor. So
yeah, very. I I'm watching the MCU movies all over again with my friend Trent, who hasn't seen any of the movies. He saw Black Widow, but was really confused by it. So I'm taking him from the beginning all the way back, and from the beginning till till now, right. Which is going to take a while. But one thing that I will have to say, that his character Tim Roth, he was used very underwhelmingly in Incredible Hulk, even though he's a great actor.
Yeah, he's the character itself, not Tim Roth. The character itself is one of my least favorite parts of the Incredible
Hulk. Which is unfortunate, because he's played by a good he's played by a good actor.
He's played by an incredible actor. Mm-hmm. Everything you need to know about Tim Roth as an actor is in Reservoir Dogs. That's all you got to know. Like, you just watch Reservoir Dogs and you will see how good of an actor Tim Roth is. It's crazy that he got squandered so hard in that movie.
But in the end, guys, we are running out of time, but in the end, I really want to say, guys, check out Shang-Chi if you haven't, if you're a big Marvel fan. In fact, if you're just an average moviegoer, go check it out. You don't really need to understand.
Yeah, it's been dominating the box office.
Yeah, even if you're just an average moviegoer, haven't seen any of the other Marvel films, still check it out. It relies solely on itself. You'll have a fun time. You'll laugh a lot of times. You'll get good action sequences, great cinematography. This has got to be one of the better MCU films.
Yeah, for sure. This is in the upper echelons, definitely.
But until then, guys, that's going to do it today for this episode of the After Party Show and Party Pastime this week. Patrick, where can they find you on social media?
You can find me on Twitter at Writer Remorse. You can find me on Instagram at Heidewise the Clown. And you can find me on Spotify or wherever else you listen to podcasts. You can catch my show All in Safe Progress Will Be Lost. It's all about video games. I host with Jared. You can hear my uncensored hot takes about video games.
And you can check me out on Twitter and Instagram at OrtizThomas101. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Party Pastime. I'm going to be out of town next week, so there won't be any shows next week. But come back in 2 weeks, guys. We will have a show for you. We're going to talk about Venom, Let There Be Carnage, and we're also going to talk about some news that's been going on with Marvel, some lawsuits going on. We're all going to talk about that too. But until then, guys, we'll see you in 2 weeks. Say it with me, Pat. Party on, partiers.